A football club can be known as dysfunctional through many means. Honestly, there is no one-size-fits-all to dysfunction, to the point that we call a club that overspends and gets no results as stupid and ultimately dysfunctional. And on the other hand, the same term could be used to describe a club in crippling debt. All of this got me thinking, what is the most dysfunctional club in the top 5 leagues right now as of the start of the 24-25 season? To figure this out, I will choose 1 to 3 clubs in each of the top 5 leagues, and I will go over their unique circumstances. Then, in the end, I will crown one of these unlucky clubs as the most dysfunctional in Europe. Now, I'm aware that just because you are the most dysfunctional club in Europe, doesn't mean that you're the most down bad, corrupt club in the whole world. Let's face it, I bet you my balls that there's a club in the backwoods of South America that is in even more of a pickle than any team mentioned here. Again, let me reiterate, I will only be talking about the top division of the top 5 leagues, so don't expect me to mention clubs like Bordeaux, KFC Heist, or Deportivo de La Coruña. Okay, as far as I know, KFC Heist is doing okay. Well, except for that 22-0 violation they suffered at the hands of Club Brugge a couple of years ago. Okay, I believe I've made myself clear. Let's jump right into it. Our first stop is the dreadful country of France, home of the prestigious McDonald's Uber Eats League 1. And without a doubt, the most backwards dysfunctional club that this fine league has to offer has to be none other than PSG. Let's face it, not only do they spend more than the rest of the teams in their league, but they're also one of the top spenders in all of world football. Over the past 10 years, they have spent more money than the GDP of these nations. To only win the McDonald's League 1 championship. You see, PSG have only had one goal over the past decade, and that has been to win the Champions League. They got close in 2020, but ever since then, it's been pure disappointment. I mean, how many round of 16 exits can a club handle before being called a circus? For a while now, PSG and their Qatari owners have been making a mockery of the European game by buying up players for shirt sales other than squad cohesion. Seriously, when they saw the front line of Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe, did they really think that one of them was going to defend? It was like PSG was trying to replicate that early 2000s Real Madrid Galacticos team, which, full transparency, the 2000s Real Madrid Galacticos was and is considered a failure, but at least that team won a Champions League. Here, let me put it to you this way. 2 years ago, PSG could have sold Mbappe, who was most definitely the world's most valuable player at the time. And they could have sold him to Real Madrid, who was willing to pay 180 to 200 million euros. What did they do instead? Well, they lost him on a free. To add insult to injury, Mbappe is now suing PSG from Real Madrid because of some unpaid wages. 50 million worth of unpaid wages, might I add. Listen, I could go on and on about how shady and backwards PSG have conducted themselves as a club, but this topic has been done to death. However, I have to give credit where credit is due. PSG have never, at least in the past decade, looked better in terms of squad health. It seems like they finally have a squad that isn't too top heavy. And if you just ignore the fact that PSG are currently being sued by Mbappe right now, the club seems pretty peaceful. So they're definitely going in the right direction. But either way, when talking about the McDonald's League 1 and dysfunctionality, how can you not bring up PSG? It's true that topping PSG in this realm is nearly impossible, but I have 2 clubs that will make an appearance later on in this video that will challenge that notion. But as for now, let's visit Germany. More specifically, Bavaria. Currently, Bayern Munich are showing signs of a dysfunctional club. If you would have asked anybody 5 years ago whether Bayern would be on the decline, not only in the league, finishing in 3rd place, but with player pulling power, I don't think many would have seen this coming, partly because of how dominant the club has been over the past decade. Either way, I get it. Sometimes big clubs have dreadful years, but what is harder to ignore is the fact that Bayern Munich have always been an attractive destination for both players and coaches. So why are they struggling with recruitment all of a sudden? Normally, clubs that have this problem are also having issues with their board of directors. Perhaps the people running the club no longer have a solid direction, or maybe they are underqualified for the position. I bet somebody in the comments knows Bayern Munich's situation more than I do, so feel free to comment. But still, it's crazy that Bayern couldn't pull any top managers, having to settle with company. No disrespect to the guy, but he did just finish a terrible job with Burnley last season. Okay, let's take a step back. Bayern Munich, one of the biggest clubs in the whole world, settled on signing a manager that just got done relegating Burnley FC. What is going on? Not only that, in the span of slightly over a year, Bayern have gone through 3 managers, and they just went through their first trophyless season since 2012. I don't know if this has anything to do with Harry Kane's weird-ass curse, but it really makes you think. A club like Bayern, that for the past 11 years has been nothing short of dominant in Germany, all of a sudden goes trophyless? To be fair, even last year, Bayern were having problems. They even ended up firing Oliver Kahn, their CEO, which makes me think that their board isn't as competent as it once was. Either way, Bayern are early in their downward spiral. Let's hope that they can dig themselves out of it. Let's see what Italy has to offer. To be completely fair, most clubs in Italy have some sort of dysfunction. For example, both of the Milan clubs are broke, relegating themselves to not spending too much every transfer window. While Roma just got done with a pretty big hiccup in Jose Mourinho overstaying his welcome. They seem to be in a good place now though, so that's good for them. Lazio is still extremely based, just a little racist. But the two that I want to talk about today are Juventus and Napoli. Let's start with Napoli because I believe that is the smaller can of worms. Look, if you win the league one year and then end up in 10th place the next, you deserve to be talked about in a video like this. Napoli also had an incident where their TikTok admin posted a video about their best player, Victor Osimhen, being a cocoa nut. And they also made fun of him for missing a penalty. Insane stuff that only this Dysfunctional club would do. But let's be real for a second. The only reason Napoli ended up in 10th place last year was because their leader Spalletti decided to retire. If it wasn't for that bombshell, I bet the team would have done alright. On the other hand, Juventus dysfunction comes from a player leaving their club. Yes, it's true. When a player the size of Cristiano Ronaldo leaves your club, you are forced into a rebuild. Just ask Real Madrid in 2018 or Barca in 2021. You see, these types of players are quite literally the system at your club. So having them leave means that you're gonna have to go back to the drawing board. Some clubs take it better than others, but one thing is for sure, the club won't fully recover from that star player's absence for a couple of years at least. Now couple this mess with Juve being a huge fan of cooking their own books. A few points deductions, sacking their long-serving manager for ripping off his shirt, and a few trophyless seasons, and you start to see why I'm calling Juventus a dysfunctional club. In hindsight, that Arthur deal is looking more suspicious than ever. Either way, Juventus were held accountable via points deduction and are now looking more stable as a club. Anyway, let's move on from Italy. 5 managers. A 12th place finish. 41 players. Too many injuries to count, and billions spent. Chelsea has been an utter disaster for the past 2 years. Simply put, this club has no direction. Every time Chelsea seems to be on the right foot, something ends up happening. In the case of last season, as soon as Pochettino started to figure things out, he and Chelsea mutually parted ways. On top of that, Chelsea are handing out crazy long contracts without a worry. The problem with long contracts is, what if a player gets injured? Or better yet, what if you don't want to use that player anymore? Well, too bad, because you're gonna have to keep on paying that guy for his decade-long contract. Again, Chelsea currently have 41 players on their books. That's 41 different contracts. You can only field 11 players at a time. How the hell does that? Not to mention the obvious fact that they have been doing shady things in regard with financial fair play. Either way, if you as a club have been spending billions of euros in the past transfer markets and only have a 6th place finish to show for it, well, that's normally a sign that we're witnessing a dysfunctional club, right? Either way, it doesn't look like Chelsea are going to be out of the mud anytime soon. So enjoy the show, I guess. And yes, currently Chelsea are far more dysfunctional than PSG, without a doubt. For anyone new to the sport, the fact that a club is more dysfunctional than PSG means that they're neck deep in the mud. And since we're talking about England, I have to mention United. You see, for the past 5 years, Manchester United has been the most dysfunctional club in all of England, with their manager merry-go-round, injuries, that Liverpool game, and the whole Ronaldo mess. But Chelsea over the past 2 years have made quite the statement as to why United are not the most out-of-touch club in the Premier League. Also, admittedly, United are slowly getting better. Now that those parasitic Glazers are out of the club, United can now start redeeming themselves after years of banter and disappointment. Like most things in life, there is a clear winner. Someone or something that is so far from the others that it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, where did things go so wrong for FC Barcelona? I should preface this section by saying that I am from Spain, and I'm clearly into football. I say this because Barcelona's dysfunction is something that is much bigger than La Liga, and it goes beyond the world of football. The Spaniards watching this video would know what I am talking about when I say that everything in Spain is corrupt. From head to toe, every system, the government, everything's corrupt. And it has been that way for generations. Look, why did I bring all this up? Well, it's because some of the things that FC Barcelona has done in the past, is still doing in the present, and will probably do in the future, might sound foreign and unbelievable to some of you guys. But I'm here to say, it happened, it's happening, And if everything is left as it is, it will continue to happen. Look, sorry to blue ball you guys, but I'm not gonna go into all the misdeeds of this club. That deserves its own hour-long deep dive video. But I will leave you with some datums that I'm sure will quell your desire for the time being. What better place to start with than the whole Gundogan situation? Well, they had to get rid of their best, most influential, and most played midfielder of last season because they needed to free up cap space in order to register Dani Olmo, which is a player that is injury prone and plays in a position that they already have covered. That just makes no sense. Their club presidents have a long history of taking the club's money, lining their own pockets, and only buying players from agents that have a good relationship with Laporta or the club. Remember, agents get a cut of the transfer fee. Barca Studios isn't real. They're exploiting borderline slave labor to rebuild the Camp Nou. They paid 7 million euros over 20 years to contract the services of the vice president of the Referees Federation. They are over 1.5 billion euros in debt. They have the media paid off, and Barca regularly filters information to the media outlets criticizing their own players to try to pressure them to leave the club, usually because they gave them unbelievably large contracts that they can't pay off, like Frankie de Jong. Look, what I'm trying to say is that where there's smoke, there's fire. And FC Barcelona has been burning down for a few years now. The iceberg goes deep with this one. Either way, I don't think many of you will question my decision to put FC Barcelona as the most in-the-mud dysfunctional club in all of Europe. And look, if you like this video, why don't you think about subscribing? Anyway, have a good rest of your day.